Sajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Sajjana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Gopi Janabala Yashodanandana Sajjana Jamuna Tiravana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Jayam Vishnu Paramahamsa Paravakacharya Astotara Sarasri Srimati Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam today, Canto 3, Chapter 28, text number 29. And the title of the chapter is Kapila's Instructions on Devotional Service. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 29, I'm going to read the Sanskrit. Vidyanukampita diyeha grihita murte. No, I'll do word for word, it's the same. Vidyanukampita diyeha grihita murtehe. Vidyanukampita diyeha grihita murte. Vidyanukampita Diyeha Grihita Murte Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotitamala Kapolam Udara Nasam Vidyotitamala Kapolam Udara Nasam Okay, we'll start from the beginning and go all the way through. Vityanu Kampita Diyeha Grihita Mote Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotimala Kapolam Udara Nasam Somebody else like to lead? Vichyanukam pita diyeha grihita murte Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotitamala Kapolam Udaranasam Vidyanukampita Diyeha Grihita Murte Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotitamala Kapolam Udaranasam Vidyanukampita Diyeha Grihita Murte Sanchintayed Bhagavato Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotitamala Kapolam Udaranasam Vidyanukampita Diyeha Grihita Murte Vadanaravindam Yad Vishpuran Makara Kundala Valgitena Vidyotitamala Kirpitya for the devotees. Anukampitadiya out of compassion. Iha in this world. Grihitamurtahe who presents different forms. Sanchintayet one should meditate on. Bhagavataha of the personality of Godhead. Vadana countenance. Aravindam lotus-like. Yat which. Vishpuran glittering. Makara alligator-shaped. Kundala of his earrings. Valgatena by the oscillation. Vidyotita illuminated. Amala crystal clear. Kapolam his cheeks. Udara prominent. Nasam his nose. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The yogi should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord, who presents his different forms in this world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. Purport. So let's do the translation together first. Please repeat. The yogi should then meditate on the lotus-like countenance of the Lord, who presents his different forms in this world out of compassion for the anxious devotees. His nose is prominent, and his crystal clear cheeks are illuminated by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. Purport. The Lord descends to the material world out of his deep compassion for his devotees. There are two reasons for the Lord's appearance or incarnation in the material world. Whenever there is a discrepancy in the discharge of religious principles and there is prominent irreligion, the Lord descends for the protection of the devotees and the destruction of the non-devotees. When he appears, his main purpose is to give solace to his devotees. He does not have to come to destroy the demons, for he has many agents. Even the external energy Maya has sufficient strength to kill them. But when he comes to show compassion to his devotees, he kills the non-devotees as a matter of course. The Lord appears in the particular form loved by a particular type of devotee. There are millions of forms of the Lord, but they are one absolute. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. All the different forms of the Lord are one, but some devotees want to see him in the form of Radha and Krishna. Others prefer to see him as Sita and Ramachandra. Others would see him as Lakshmi Narayan, and others want to see him as four-handed Narayan Vasudeva. The Lord has innumerable forms, and he appears in a particular form as preferred by a particular type of devotee. A yogi is advised to meditate upon the forms that are approved by devotees. A yogi cannot imagine a form for meditation. Those so-called yogis who manufacture a circle or target are engaged in nonsense. Actually, a yogi must meditate upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that has been experienced by the pure devotees. Yogi means devotee. Yogis who are not actually pure devotees should follow in the footsteps of devotees. It is especially mentioned here that the yogi should meditate upon the form, which is thus approved. He cannot manufacture a form of the Lord. Amagyana timarandasya Gyananjanan shalakaya Chaksha ummalitam jaina tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born into the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gauda Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Would anyone like to suggest what are some of the themes or the ideas that come up in this purport? What are some of the things we hear as we hear Prabhupada's purport?
The Lord has innumerable forms. The Lord has innumerable forms, and he appears according to the form that devotee wants to see him or desires to see him.
Yep, thank you. So you said the Lord has innumerable forms, and he appears in the form in which the devotee desires to see him. Thank you. Anything else that comes up from the purport? What, from hearing, what do you remember? So when you hear this, what comes to your mind? What's something that sticks?
He comes at two times. One was the destruction of the Jamus Bharat supposed to come. Then the other was, is it the solace of the sadhu sangha? What was the second?
He comes for two reasons.
Yeah.
You're saying, yes?
One is to destroy or take care of his Vaishnavas.
Yes.
And the other was
Vinashaya Chadushtritam, to annihilate the miscreants. What's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Krishna, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, and it says the two reasons. Sorry, what's the first line? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushtritam. So, sadhunam. Thank you. So, millennium after millennium, I appear to save my devotees and annihilate the miscreants. So Prabhupada's also saying in this purport that the primary reason why God comes is to save the devotees and please the devotees. Because Prabhupada points out here that actually Krishna doesn't need to come to destroy the miscreants or the non-devotees or the demons. He doesn't need to do that. Maya could do that. The material energy is herself powerful enough to remove the demons. But Prabhupada says when Krishna comes, he does it as a matter of course. In other words, it's just part of his pastime. One time in a lecture, Prabhupada said, Krishna doesn't need to come to fight the demons, but he does out of sport. Because in the spiritual world, nobody can fight with him. So when he comes to the material world, he likes a good fight. And for that reason, he actually sends his devotees to pretend to be demons. So then he can have a really good fight. There was one word in this purport that was mentioned at least 3 times. It was mentioned in the translation and in the purport. And that word was compassion. So in the purport, it says, his different forms in this world out of compassion for the devotees. And Prabhupada in the purport says, the Lord descends out of his deep compassion for his devotees. So this word compassion is a very significant word in understanding Krishna and understanding also ourselves as Krishna's servants. Before we carry on, was there anything else that anyone wanted to share that came up in the purport? So we've talked about two things so far. The Lord comes in innumerable forms. He comes for different reasons. And he comes out of compassion. Because Krishna is fully independent. So he doesn't have to come here, does he? He has no need to come to the material world except to save us. Otherwise he doesn't need to. For himself he's completely satisfied. So we can analyze, I'd like us to analyze today and look at the ways in which Krishna demonstrates compassion for the living entities by his descendant. So we're going to analyze the different ways that the Lord's descent, and the ways that the Lord shows compassion. Because somebody may read this and say, the Lord kills the non-devotees as a matter of course. Is that compassion? Is the Lord showing compassion when he comes and he kills the non-devotees? How do we understand these things? So we understand that the Lord is all loving, all kind. And yet he comes and he kills the non-devotees.
He's liberating them.
He's liberating them, okay. Somebody might also say, the Lord creates this material world so we can suffer. Where's the compassion?
I don't think he kills his devotees. He does not kill his devotees.
He doesn't kill his devotees. No. He did kill Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and they were his devotees, but they were in the guise of demons, right? Yes. Yes. And he did fight with Bhishma Dev on the battlefield, and he was his devotee too. So sometimes understanding God and his compassion can be confusing, right? I remember one time I was doing Sankirtan, I was doing book distribution, and I was just finished for the day. And I put all my books in my bag and I started walking back to meet my family. And I saw this one man walking down the street, and I could see he was in pain. He was obviously suffering. And I had this intuitive feeling that I have to give this person a book. So I just went to him and said, "Sir, please take this book." And he was angry and he shouted at me, "Just leave me alone, I'm suffering, get out of my way." And again I had this urge, so I ran after him and grabbed him by the arm and said, "Please take this book." And again, "Get out of my way, leave me alone, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I'm dying." And then he pulled his t-shirt up and said, "Look, see, can't you see I have this," he had it's called a catheter or something, attached to his body. And he did not want to hear about God, he was angry. He was angry at God because of his suffering. Because I'm suffering, therefore I don't want to hear about God. And I just looked at him and I said, "Look, I can't save your body actually. You may die. But if you take this book, it might save your soul." And then he looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, "Thank you," and he took the book and walked away. And I always remember that experience. As we see how people, when we're suffering, we tend to see God as somehow punishing me. So we grow up to believe in good and bad, right? Happiness and distress, duality. And based on what we think is good and bad, we make judgments. This is good, this is bad. This is happy, this is suffering. And then we understand karma in the same way, isn't it? We see karma as either punishing us or rewarding us. Is that right? We have this perspective of the world. So one time, this is a story, this is not a real story, it's based it's based on a Chinese proverb. A devotee was living in a village of devotees, and one day his horse ran away, just bolted from the field and disappeared. And the devotee next door in the field came over the fence and said, must be your bad karma. You must have done something bad and therefore your horse has run away. A few days later, the other devotee said, good karma, bad karma, who knows? And a few days later, the horse came running back into the field. But it brought with it another horse, a beautiful white stallion that it had found. And the devotee next door said, now this must be your good karma. Your good fortune has come back. And the devotee said, good karma, bad karma, who knows? And then the devotee's son started to ride this new white stallion. And he had a bad accident. He fell off the stallion and broke his arm and broke his leg. And the devotee next door said, oh dear, bad karma again. This must be your misfortune. Now your son is injured. And then a few days later, the army came by. They were drafting young men up for the war. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't take your son because he's injured. And the devotee next door said, this must be your good karma again. And he said, good karma, bad karma, who knows? It's based on a Chinese proverb. And it's teaching us the intricacies of karma are very hard to understand. And what we judge as being bad may sometimes be good for us. Is that right? Is Krishna giving us bad karma just to punish us? Is that his compassion? He wants us to suffer.
We are responsible for our karma.
He wants us to suffer for our own good.
Sorry?
He wants us to suffer for our own good?
To purify us.
To purify us. Yes. What does Krishna actually want? I'm just asking the questions here. We're thinking.
I think what I picked up from here is that we're talking about here getting aware of this killing, liberation, and the compassion. I think all three are interwoven in the sense that because of compassion, he comes and destroys demons, and in that process, Kurukshetra, a lot of devotees got killed, but in that process, he liberated them because he didn't want them to suffer. Because even in this world, what we see sometimes, the situation is that I am uneasy with the situation. But then that is what he liberates. He kills me, but to liberate. So that was my pickup from what we are talking about and what Krishna comes from. Definitely comes to liberate me and because of his compassion.
Yes. Yeah, we actually understand that whatever Krishna does is his love and his compassion. But I'm challenging our thinking a little bit here. I'm challenging our thinking about karma, because we see karma as being good and bad. Right? But actually, what Krishna really wants is for us to wake up. Jeev Jago, wake up, sleeping soul. He wants us to wake up from our conditioning and to realize who we are. And so when he gives us karma or karmic reactions, it's meant to teach us. It's meant to teach us a lesson so we understand that whatever we do has an effect, both on ourselves and on others. But it's teaching us to come to a higher level of consciousness so that eventually we can surrender to Krishna. So,
karma of an animal being or a living being. Karma is not devoid. A living entity is not devoid of karma. So karma is part of living entity.
karma is part of our journey in this world. That's right. And Krishna, he has designed that system. He's created it for our benefits. So the point that we're making is that Krishna designs whatever we're going through out of love and compassion. Sometimes people get stuck in a paradigm of good and bad. But it's not about good and bad, it's all good, actually. So sometimes I may be suffering, and as a devotee I can see it's all good. Because I know that that suffering is there for a good reason. I know that suffering is there to help me learn my next lesson, or to help me wake up to a new level of consciousness. But for somebody who doesn't understand Krishna and doesn't understand his spiritual nature, when they're suffering, all they see is the bad. So we're very fortunate that we have that consciousness that we can see whatever I'm going through, Krishna has designed this for my benefit. So one of the ways that Krishna shows compassion is that he's ever present within our hearts. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am in the hearts of all living beings, and I give knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So even Krishna giving us forgetfulness is compassion. Because if I remembered my past life, I may not be able to function effectively in this life. So sometimes Krishna is awarding knowledge, he's awarding remembrance, and he's awarding forgetfulness too. And all three of those things are aspects of his compassion. And no matter how many lifetimes we go through, no matter how many times we reject him and turn away, he's still there. He listens to every prayer that we make. He listens to every endeavor. He sees every endeavor that we do. And he awards us accordingly. But he doesn't judge. He doesn't judge us. When Krishna was teaching Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, did he force Arjuna to listen? Arjuna, you must listen to my instructions or else I will punish you if you don't do what I say. If you don't get on that battlefield right now, I'm going to punish you. Did Krishna do that? Do we do that as parents sometimes? Yes. But Krishna didn't do that. He said, Arjuna, here is the truth, here is the knowledge. Now you choose. You can either take my instruction, or you can choose to reject my instruction. It's up to you. But I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you the knowledge. It's up to you to accept it or reject it. So again, this is Krishna's love and compassion. Because if Krishna was to force us, you must surrender, then there cannot be love. Because love does not come from fear or force. Love develops by choice and knowledge. And another way that Krishna shows compassion is that whatever endeavors we make in devotional life is never lost. So there's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Neha Bhikramana Shosti Hatiyavayo Navidyate Svapamapya Siddhamasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. In this endeavor there's no loss or diminution. And just a little advancement on this path can save us from the most dangerous type of fear. So it's said that whatever progress we make in our spiritual life, even though one may fall down again and forget, is never lost. So in your next life, you take up from where you left. And even if you don't take up in your next life, it's still there for the next time you do take up your spiritual life. So we don't have to go all the way back to the beginning and start again. So that's a sign of Krishna's compassion. Can anybody think of another way that Krishna shows compassion? So far we've looked at three things. We've looked at how Krishna provides karma to help us on our journey. Krishna's ever present as the Supersoul in our hearts, and he never forgets our service. Can anyone think of another way that Krishna shows compassion?
If they are seeking spiritual enlightenment, then he sends spiritual master.
Thank you. Yep. For one who's seeking spiritual enlightenment, Krishna, he sends the spiritual master. He sends the saints and the gurus who are there to guide us and give us direction so that we can follow the proper route, the proper path. So in the scriptures, there's many wonderful examples of saints who have guided us. And I'm going to give one example today. That's Bharat Maharaj, who showed so much compassion for the other living entities. So let's have a look at what Bharat Maharaj said to Lord Nrsingadev. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj expresses his compassion. Lord Prahlad prays, "O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I'm fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making plans for material happiness and maintaining their families and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them." So what we're hearing here is that Prahlad Maharaj, he's not worried about himself. He knows that Krishna is already looking after him. He's only concerned about all the other people that are suffering in the material world. So that is the compassion of the spiritual master. He's simply concerned about, how do I save these people who are in forgetfulness? How do I wake them up? How do I open their eyes and their hearts so that they can see the truth? And then Prahlad says, "I see that there are many saintly persons, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet." So we can try to understand the magnanimous compassion of Prahlad Maharaj, who's saying, "I'm not interested in my own liberation, I'm only interested in trying to help others come back to you." And we can see that same mood reflected in our own beloved Srila Prabhupada. Is that right? Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, he was living in the Radha Damodar temple, he was writing books, he was quite comfortable. He was surrounded by wonderful devotees. He could have stayed there. But instead of staying there, he took so many difficulties to travel to America and follow the orders of his spiritual master to save us. Just to get on board the Jaladuta ship, Srila Prabhupada went through so many challenges. He didn't have enough money, no one was going to help him. None of his friends came to help him. He tried to distribute books to make money, and even that wasn't working. When he tried to get his P form, which he needed in order to get to America, the government wouldn't give it to him. And so he went to the highest person he could find in the government and begged them, "Please give me my P form, I need to go to America." And eventually it was given. When he went to the steamship owner, Srimati Maraji, Srimati Maharaji was an amazing woman in India. She was actually the first woman in the world to own and run a steamship company. She had many liaisons with Mahatma Gandhi and then with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had sent his friend to approach her, please go and ask her to give me a ticket on the boat. And she said no. So Prabhupada's friend came back, and again Prabhupada said, tell her this. He coached her. This is how you have to speak to her. So again he went back, and Srimati Maharaji said, no, we cannot give him a ticket. So Prabhupada said, okay, I will go myself. And he went to Srimati Maharaji and said, please, I need to do this for my spiritual master. I need to go to America. And she said, Swamiji, all my secretaries, they think you will die if you go to America. I cannot do this. I cannot give you a ticket. And Prabhupada insisted, I need to go to America to save these people. I need to follow my spiritual master's order. So eventually she conceded and gave him a ticket. So it wasn't easy for Prabhupada. Getting on a boat at 70 years old or 69 years old, having 2 heart attacks on the way, arriving in America with no friends, with no support, no financial help. It wasn't easy for him. But Prabhupada never gave up. Even when things were really, really difficult, he never gave up. He continued and he continued. And Krishna, of course, reciprocated. And here's Prabhupada's prayer when he was on the Jaladuta, some of it. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva Krishna. I do not know how they will be able to understand it, but I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand? O Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. And then Prabhupada says, I wish that you may deliver them. This is Prabhupada's prayer. Therefore, if you desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. O Lord, I am just a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. So that's the beautiful prayer that was written by Srila Prabhupada on the Jaladuta. And he's exemplifying exactly the same mood as Bharat Maharaj. Out of passion, compassion, desiring to liberate and save the living entities and bring them back to Krishna. So that is the compassion of the saints. We also see in the example of Haridas Thakur, who was beaten in 22 marketplaces and left for dead. He was thrown in his body was thrown into the river Ganges after they had beaten him, thinking him dead. And what was Haridas Thakur doing? He was simply praying that those people who beat him will be saved. Such is the compassion of a Vaishnava. And then in Lord Jesus Christ we see the same thing. He was hung on a cross and left for dead. And what was he doing? He was simply praying that those who were punishing him will be liberated and saved. So we know that when Krishna also kills the demons, somebody said earlier, they get saved, right? So Putana came to Krishna with the intention to kill him. She had killed many babies, not just Krishna. She was killing lots of babies, so that's a pretty bad thing. But because she had shown Krishna some motherly affection, he only saw the motherly affection and gave her liberation. Here's a quote from Srila Prabhupada in that connection, if I can find it. Here it is. This is from the purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2.23. Prabhupada says, the Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? So the Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and gives him the highest reward. So again, that's an example of the Lord's compassion, isn't it? Not only does he not forget our service, lifetime after lifetime, but he also awards us our least qualification and gives us the highest reward. So we may not be qualified, we may not be capable, but the Lord recognizes the good that we do. Sometimes we're the opposite though, aren't we? What do we see in ourselves? We always see the worst, right? I'm so bad at playing Madanga, I'm so bad at how I treat my children, I'm so bad at how I do this and how I do that. So sometimes we can be very compassionate to other people, but maybe not so compassionate to ourselves. Is that true? No? Is it true? Are you compassionate to yourself?
I'm compassionate sometimes, because then when I try to understand why I'm here, and that's this knowledge, I'm compassionate why I'm getting disturbed by this Maya.
Yes.
So I'm trying to be compassionate for that soul. And I realize that Krishna is within me.
Yes.
My purpose. So that's what I'm trying to be compassionate towards myself.
Good.
Occasions I do try to be compassionate.
I'm bringing it up because it's a stumbling block that many devotees struggle with, actually. And I'm reading a book at the moment. I'll give you the title. It's written by a devotee, and it's on Kindle. And I just found it recently. The title of the book is called Revealing the Heart. Revealing the Heart. And it's written by a devotee because she realized after 20 years of dedicated service, 20 years of living in the temple and just giving everything in service, she realized, she said, I've become an angry, grumpy person. This is her own writing. And she realized that 20 years of chanting in service, she hadn't developed her inner compassion for herself and others. And she felt she felt very disturbed by that. She went into a period of great searching and inner yearning. She said she even got to the point of wanting to commit suicide. Because she'd been practicing so hard for so long, but internally she hated herself and she was very unhappy. So it's a reality that many devotees go through. I'm practicing devotional service, but internally I'm not developing this love and compassion. So she went on a journey, and the book describes the journey that she went through to find that love and compassion that she could then transfer to serving Krishna. So it's a good question for us to ask, where am I at with my own love and my own compassion? How does that work in my relationship with myself, and how does that manifest in my relationship with others? How much am I able to listen to others and really understand where they're coming from? Or how much do I interject others? Or when somebody talks to me and shares, how much do I just want to give them advice and fix their problem? Am I willing to really understand the suffering of others and really try to help them in a loving, compassionate way? Am I able and ready to do that? These are all questions. How much am I able to look at my own faults and my own anartas and my own problems in a loving, compassionate way, without judging them, so that I can actually honestly sit with them and then work out how to improve them. Because what can happen is we can notice something within ourselves that we don't like. And what's the tendency to do? I don't want to go there, it's too hard. I'm going to push it down. Have you ever tried to hold a beach ball under the water? You know, a big beach ball? What's it like if you try to hold it under the water? Keeps pushing up, right? So the more we try to suppress and hold down all those things we see in ourselves that we don't like, it's like trying to hold down this big beach ball. But the more I can compassionately and lovingly say, here's my faults, here's my anartas, I can sit with them, I can understand them, I can accept them, and then I'm going to lovingly work with them and work with Krishna in my prayers, in my service, to overcome them. So it's a journey. It's a spiritual journey. Because as spiritual beings, we are all full of knowledge, Satchidananda, joy, knowledge, and eternity. We're fully happy, we're fully free. And the consciousness of the pure soul is very powerful. So how does it become covered by the material energy? The only explanation is that the material energy is more powerful than us. Isn't it? If it wasn't more powerful than us, then it wouldn't be able to cover us. And because it's more powerful than us, and because it's owned and controlled by the Lord, therefore the only way to get through it is to surrender to the Lord. Because He can release us. There's a nice saying, every sinner has a future, and every saint has a past. So in other words, every sinner, no matter how sinful somebody is right now, they have the potential to become a pure devotee and be established in their rightful situation. And somebody who may be very saintly right now, they also had a past. They came from somewhere, didn't they? In their past, they may have been doing many sinful things, but they've been through that journey to get to where they are. So this universal concept of compassion, is it Vijayanaya Sampane Brahmane Hasti Gavani Suni Chaiva Svapakicha Pandita Samadashinaha. One, the true knowledge, sees with equal vision. A brahmana, a cow, a dog eater, etc. Sees it with equal vision. He sees the spiritual spark within everything. He sees the potential within every living entity. So Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the Bowery in New York City, he was dealing with people who would have been considered very fallen. They were taking drugs, they were smoking, they were having illicit sex. But what was Prabhupada seeing in them? He was seeing their potential, wasn't he? He was seeing beyond all of that conditioning and seeing, here are these gems, here are these beautiful diamonds. We just need to polish them up, and then they'll become just like Vaikuntha devotees. So that was Prabhupada's compassion and vision. I'm going to stop talking there, but thank you very much for listening. Does anybody have any questions or comments or realizations that you'd like to share? Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.